to the channel. So these studio monitor speakers are the MR3s from Edifier, and since the very first moment that these were released, I believe sometime late last year, I actually picked up a pair, and I've been using them pretty much as my go-to audio solution at my desk setup. Now, let me just say, I'm not the kind of guy who likes to use certain terms loosely, like game changer, but these, in my opinion, came really close. So what I can say for sure is that these have definitely more than exceeded my expectations. So let's talk about it. All right, so firstly, from a visual perspective, as you can see, the MR3s will immediately grab your attention with the copper colored accents both on the dust cap of the woofer and the volume control knob that gives these speakers a very classy and modern touch that I like a lot. Now you can get the MR3s right now in two different color variants, black and white. I clearly have the white version here, both looking pretty sleek. But what I need to say with the white variant that I have, it's not actually true pure white. It kind of gives a little bit more of an off-white color, which was definitely something that I wish I knew beforehand. So, you know, kind of bear that in mind. Build quality wise, the housing of the MR3s are made up of MDF materials, which is pretty solid and lightweight as well, weighing just around 3.9 kilograms. And what I also really liked are how compact these speakers are as well, which in my opinion makes these the perfect size for maybe a small studio or home office desk, which is kind of where you can see I have mine set up most times. Now, the connections and controls of the MR3s are really simple and straightforward. On the front, there is a multi-function front knob that controls power, volume, as well as toggling between the different sound profile and Bluetooth modes. This knob is one that continuously spins, so there is no limit to it, which I personally didn't have much of an issue with. And there's also an LED indicator light that changes color based on, of course, the speaker status, which I found to be quite useful. Now, the other two ports found on the front are going to be the 3.5mm aux and the 3.5mm headphone jack, which provides easy access for connecting your favorite headphones or any other device that you want to connect to these speakers. And then on the back, there are more ports for connection to devices, which includes a balanced 1/4-inch TRS for connecting to possibly an audio interface, which is how I have mine connected at my desk. And you can also find an unbalanced RCA port for connecting to anything like laptops or even a smartphone, for example. Now, there are two acoustic tuning knobs as well on the back of these speakers, which helps to quickly adjust the bass or treble by either cutting or boosting the high or low frequencies without having to go through the app, which is honestly really convenient to have. Now, yes, you can definitely go ahead and connect these MR3s to the Edifier Connects app to open more options in terms of settings, which I'm gonna get to in a second. But all these ports and controls on the MR3s are found on the main powered speaker, which actually operates as the right-hand channel, and the other speaker right here is actually just a passive satellite speaker that connects to the main unit with just a length of speaker cable, which is actually included in the box. Now, my only wish in terms of other imports that I really hope these would have are either XLR or USB-C options, but I guess at this price point, that is probably not possible. Now, earlier, I did mention that these MR3s are actually Bluetooth compatible, which is probably one of the biggest difference between the older MR4s and these. And of course, depending on your use case, having something like Bluetooth capabilities may not really matter to you much. But I must say, for me personally, the MR3's built-in Bluetooth 5.4 audio receiver, which can actually connect to two devices simultaneously for quick switching, is really pretty handy and honestly a nice to have feature, even if I never intend on using this feature. I was actually able to pair these speakers to my iPhone, my laptop without any problems, and it just makes my everyday life that much easier. The connection was also pretty stable even when I moved between different rooms in my house, upstairs, downstairs, around the house. I had no major issues where that is concerned. The other function of having Bluetooth on the MR3s is also to be able to customize these speakers to your liking. And that's where something like the Edifier Connects app come more into play. Now, the app itself is pretty simple and straightforward. There's really nothing much to it. I was able to use it to switch between different sound profiles or to just fine tune my own EQ adjustments, and of course make my own custom sound profile. Interestingly though, there is this 6-band EQ and acoustic tuning page that controls the low cutoff, the acoustic space and desktop control that I used in the app to ensure the speakers are properly optimized for where I have them placed on my desk in this general space. Now, there are of course other functions that are going to be possible through the Connects app, such as controlling music playback, turning the speakers on and off, and some other minor functions. But despite all of its capabilities, I did actually find the app for me personally was more of a nice gimmick, for the lack of a better term, than a must-have in my everyday use. But don't get me wrong, it is really useful for, precise sound optimization when connected via Bluetooth. But I did find myself pretty much 9 out of 10 times, maybe 8 out of 10 times, preferring to use the physical controls on the speaker itself. But the big question that you more than likely clicked this video to get answered, and the number one thing that these MR3s needed to get right, and that's of course the sound quality. Hey, by the way, if you've been enjoying the video so far and you're finding value from it, please just go ahead, hit that like button, and also please consider subscribing as well, as I'm really trying to get to that 5K subs by the time summer hits. So please help a brother out. I really appreciate it. So how good do these MR3 studio monitors really sound? And honestly speaking, pretty shockingly good. Now, I don't claim to be an audiophile by any means, but I've, listened to my fair share of speakers over the years. And 3 words actually came to mind whenever I'm using these daily, especially as reference studio monitors. And that's precise, consistent, and detailed. And just to be clear, I'm definitely not saying that there are no weaknesses with the MR3s when it comes to the sound it produces. But for such a compact set of speakers, I'm truly impressed. Now, bear in mind, these are 18-watt drivers on each, with a frequency range of 52 hertz to about 40 kilohertz. And I tested these speakers with multiple music genres, and I find that with the more bass-intensive genres, such as hip-hop, of course, the MR3s seems not to be quite dominant in the bass range, which can be an advantage for studio applications. The strengths of the MR3s though are definitely in the mids, in my opinion. I find that voices are reproduced pretty clearly and naturally, which again make these quite good for monitoring voice recordings or even acoustic music, but not necessarily for more complex mixes. The highs, on the other hand, I find were pretty clean and pleasant, not too harsh, but could be a little better at separating the fine details, which can be pretty crucial for more long listening sessions. Not a deal breaker, but still worth mentioning. At max volume, there is no distortion, and I kind of find myself most times usually hovering a little over 50% volume for most of my listening. Now, they are designed for near field listening and easily fill my home studio here, which fall more under of a mid-sized room. So if you're looking for more output that could fill a much larger space, then these might not fit the bill. But altogether, I truly believe the MR3s produces a really good audio experience. They give out a great sound and have really good tonal balance, in my opinion, despite its small form factor. Even the limited Bluetooth codec that you get with these sounded really good, in my opinion, again. So here are my final thoughts on the Edifier MR3s. First of all, what I like, what I disliked. Now, I really like the design, of course. It looks amazing. It's modern looking, pretty sleek, and I love how compact they are. Perfect for a desk setup in my opinion. I also like the Bluetooth support as well, even though, as I said earlier, it's something that I don't really use very often, but it's really nice to have just in case I need it. I also really love the sound quality coming from these speakers. For the price, it's almost criminal to be complaining about much, and I do believe they punch above its price point. Now, some things that I didn't like or not so much of a fan of, it might sound a little bit like I'm nitpicking here, but the color was not what I expected. As I said, I wanted true white speakers, and these were not it. It definitely lost points for me there on that. Still not a big deal, but again, just thought you should know. Even though I honestly do love the sound from these speakers, I do not necessarily consider these as pure studio monitors. So for more serious and complex audio mixes, studio mixes, these are gonna fall a bit short. And lastly, even though again, I don't necessarily would consider this as a dislike or a con, but the amount of output, even though was definitely more than enough for my studio slash home office space, might not be enough for larger rooms. And if you want bass heavy speakers as well, these are not gonna be it. So who should buy the MR3s? Well, if you have, or if you're building a small studio space, a small home office, or you just want to upgrade from your built-in monitor or laptop speakers, and you're on a budget, of course, then I highly recommend these. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. They check all the boxes of being a great budget set of powered speakers. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. And of course, I'll see you guys again in my next video.